Okay, so here's one that genuinely keeps me up at night. A man pays child support for years, maybe a decade, and then finds out through a DNA test that the kid isn't even his.
Yeah, paternity fraud. It's one of those topics where everyone has a strong opinion within about 3 seconds.
And my strong opinion is, yes, if she knew or even suspected that the child wasn't his and she let him pay anyway, she should have to pay back every single dollar.
Okay, and I knew you'd come in hot on this. Let me just slow us down. Are we talking about cases where she deliberately lied or all cases?
That's fair. I think there's a spectrum, right? But let's start with the clearest case. She knows who the biological father is. She names the wrong guy. He pays for years. That's fraud. Full stop.
In that scenario, I'm actually with you. If there's provable, deliberate deception, that's wrong and there should be legal consequences.
Right. And here's what blows my mind. In most U.S. states, even when a man proves he's not the biological father, courts can still force him to keep paying child support.
Wait, seriously? Even after a DNA test?
Seriously, there's this legal concept called presumed fatherhood. If you signed the birth certificate or you were married to the mother, many states say, too bad. You're the legal father regardless of biology.
Okay, I actually know about this, and I think the reasoning is more nuanced than too bad. The court's primary concern is the welfare of the child. The child didn't commit fraud.
No, and I have enormous sympathy for the child. But how is it justice to make the victim of fraud keep paying? Punish the person who lied, not the person who was lied to.
But here's where I'd push back. Child support isn't technically the mother's money. It's the child's money. It's meant to feed, clothe, and house a kid.
In theory, yes. In practice, there's almost no oversight on how child support gets spent. But that's a different episode.
It is a different episode. But the point stands. If you say, pay it all back, you're essentially saying take resources away from a child who may have done nothing wrong and who may see this man as their only father.
That's an emotional argument, and I get it. But Morgan, there was a study, I think it was in the Journal of Epidemiology, that estimated paternity fraud rates are somewhere between 2 and 12%, depending on the population studied.
That's a huge range.
It is, but even at 2%, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of men in the U.S. alone potentially raising and financially supporting children that aren't biologically theirs without knowing it.
That's wild. And look, I'm not defending deception. I just think the legal remedy of pay back every dollar creates its own set of problems.
Like what?
Like, say a woman was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. The man paid $50,000 in child support. She doesn't have $50,000. So now what? Garnish her wages for the next decade while she's still the primary caregiver of this child?
I mean, if someone steals $50,000 from you, the fact that they don't have the money doesn't mean they don't owe it.
Sure, but we don't typically treat this under theft statutes, and I think there's a reason courts have been reluctant to go there.
The reason is that family courts are overwhelmingly biased toward mothers. I'll die on that hill.
I'd push back on that being the only reason. I think it's also because judges are terrified of creating a situation where the child ends up in poverty because the adults are fighting over reimbursement.
Okay, that's a legitimate concern. So here's my compromise. What if the biological father is identified and he takes over the financial responsibility? Then the woman reimburses the defrauded man.
Now that's actually interesting. You're redirecting support rather than eliminating it. The child still gets taken care of.
Exactly. The kid doesn't suffer. The actual biological father steps up, and the man who was deceived gets made whole, or at least starts to.
But what if the biological father can't be found, or he's dead, or he's broke?
Then it gets harder, I admit. But the default shouldn't be, well, the wrong guy already got screwed. Let's just keep screwing him.
No, I agree the default is broken. I just think the fix is more complicated than pay it all back. What about emotional damages too? This man may have bonded with this child.
Oh, don't even get me started. The emotional devastation of finding out your child isn't your child. There's no dollar amount for that.
And from the child's perspective, imagine being 14 and finding out the man you call dad isn't your biological father, and now he's suing your mom for reimbursement. That's its own trauma.
It is, and that's on the person who created the lie in the first place. The trauma originates with the deception, not with seeking justice for it.
That's actually a really strong point. I think I've been so focused on the downstream consequences that I wasn't putting enough weight on who caused the situation.
Thank you. And look, I'm not heartless about this. I think mandatory DNA testing at birth would solve like 90% of these cases before they even start.
Now, that's where I actually disagree with you pretty strongly. Mandatory DNA testing at birth feels like the state saying, we don't trust mothers by default.
Or, it's the state saying, we're going to establish biological fact so everyone is protected. We do blood type testing. We do genetic screening for diseases. Why is paternity the one thing we're not allowed to verify?
Because it turns every birth into a potential accusation, and it could destabilize families that are perfectly happy.
Happy based on a lie, though. If the truth destabilizes your family, the problem isn't the truth.
I hear you, but I think I'd rather see it as an opt-in right that's strongly protected. Any man can request a test at any time with no stigma, rather than a mandate.
I could live with that, actually, as long as the legal system then respects the results and acts on them.
And I think that's where we actually agree. The legal system needs to catch up. Right now, it punishes men who discover the truth by saying, you should have found out sooner.
Statutes of limitations on contesting paternity are absurdly short in some states, like 2 years in some places.
Which means if you find out when the kid is 5, you're already out of luck. That's genuinely unjust.
So where do we land on this? Because I feel like we're closer than I expected.
I think we land here. Deliberate paternity fraud should have real legal consequences, including financial restitution. But the mechanism has to protect the child. You can't just rip resources away from a kid to make a point.
Agreed. Hold the deceiver accountable, pursue the biological father for support, and reform the legal system so men aren't trapped by outdated presumptions. The child is protected, and the truth actually matters.
Yeah, at the end of the day, a system that's built on allowing a lie to stand because it's easier, that's not justice for anyone. Not the man, not the child, not even the woman in the long run.
And honestly, the kids deserve to know their real medical history, their real genetic background. The truth serves everyone.
That might be the strongest argument of all, and it's the one nobody talks about.